It's been a while. So much has happened since the last time we spoke. Sengezo Tshabangu is now the official leader of the opposition. The country found out that Walter Magaya in the education, there is now 156 malls in the Harare CBD alone. That number is not real. But is it not scary how believable it sounded? Donald Trump is back as the president. ZIFA has a new president. But it looks like Zimbabwe will not be getting a new president anytime soon. But the biggest news has been about Wicknell Chivhayo. On top of all the tenders he's won, allegedly, he's gone a step further and took over tender raFather Christmas. Christmas in December is now a preserve for us broke people. There by ZANU PF's praise and worship team, it's Christmas every month, every day. There's a lot for us to get into, so let's get into it. Ladies and gentlemen, war vets and unfocused youth, welcome back to a new season of Properganda with Kandoro. Imagine a property that has two keys. One key is held by the current tenant and the other key is held by a friend who currently stays in the cottage at the back of the house on the promise that when the current tenant's lease runs out, they will have an opportunity to move into the main house. At some point, the main house catches fire. Instead of working together to put the fire out, the two friends start arguing about whose key they will use to unlock the door. The economy is dwindling. Unemployment is as high as it has ever been. The biggest retail chain has empty shelves. Major audit firms are leaving. The new currency has been relegated for use only in instances that require change. Universities are crying that they are facing the worst brain drain in years. The donor who funds ARVs for 1.2 million citizens is threatening to pull out, but none of that matters. None of it. What matters is what you say when someone says 2030. If your answer is you're unpatriotic. Post-2017, the ruling party did its best to convince the country that factional wars were a thing of the past and they disappeared to Mazowe along with Grace Mugabe. But with each passing day, we get more and more evidence that it's a fallacy. Just last week, Minister of ICT, Tatenda Mavetera, was doing ICT-related things at the Heroes Egg. Available evidence suggests that there is 2.5 camps in ZANU PF. There's a camp that believes that the president deserves a third term. Within that camp, there's another camp that recognizes the constitutional hurdle that comes with that proposal. That camp is content with not necessarily asking for a third term, but adding an extra 2 years, Kambasera, which would then take him to 2030. Then on the other hand, there is another camp that's just like, no. Those who support calls for a third term argue that the president's leadership is crucial for continuity, for stability, especially in implementing economic reforms. They also argue that his experience and vision are needed to complete the ongoing projects. The intellectuals in this camp have gone as far as saying that the constitutional 2-term limit does not align with the unique needs of Zimbabwe at this particular juncture.
And this is the Katara before you guys at Yap. Can I tell the constitution says one more veterans Makariza Putika? To look to Takatara, Apana more veterans as duty. Can a constitution is to Barot on your end? It is our constitution. We make our own constitution. We are not deriving our constitution from the Roman Dutch law. We are creating our own. We are a sovereign state.
The real reason they want the president to stay is many of them have just joined this gravy train. And they are finding out how nice the gravy train is. Chef, no, Jude, diplomatic passports. The gravy train is very, very nice. What worries them is the uncertainty that comes with new leadership. Then there's those that are standing in the dark and bushes and are against these calls for a third term. They contend that respecting the constitution is non-negotiable. They argue that any attempt to extend term limits undermines not only democracy and the rule of law, but also a lot of what the president himself has achieved. But their main argument is that a push for a third term jeopardizes the party standing and by extension the nation, taking us back to the chaos of the Mugabe era. You will find intellectuals on that side saying things like, the liberation ethos we fought for was about equality and justice, not about perpetuating one person's indefinite rule.
This time, Zimbabweans, toda kubatana. Isu bawo veterans, ati nakunorwira tribe kana region. Takarwira nyika yose. Tanga takabatana kuhondo. Tanga tikabudovhunzana muchamari unobva kupiwe. Unoera mutupo upi. Ndosaka maiona povo yedu yaitisapota because yaiona spirit yatakati nayo kubatana. Ikadibira yatisapota vanava. They are fighting for a genuine cause.
Before you start thinking, but boys, really point, I want you to know that this is just a clever way of saying Nesu Otrambotikao. Because there is zero evidence to suggest that their behavior will be different. Do you know what innovation I wish for? I wish we could make political bets. Show up at Moore's World of Sport and put $3.20 on wearing the apologies. Because if history has taught me anything, is that when things get like this, someone somewhere is wearing that jersey. Because that jersey is a GPS tracker. You can run from it, but you can't hide. Rock one shit. The question that then follows is, where is the opposition in Zimbabwe and how have they allowed for things to get this bad? If you haven't already, pull up a chair. Because to take it about, when Nelson Chamisa resigned from active politics, we were left with two factions within CCC, one belonging to Sengezo Tshabangu and another to Welshman Loki Ncube. Douglas Monzora would love to be involved in this, but he has too many problems as it is. As things stand, the recognized leader of the opposition in Zimbabwe is Sengezo Tshabangu. Even the foreign press is identifying him as such. So when Sengezo Tshabangu makes an appearance at the president's farm and jokes that he is not necessarily against a third term, it can easily be misinterpreted as consent.
I'm so proud to represent the opposition. His Excellency in the morning, he said the role of opposition is to criticize constructively the ruling party so that the ruling party can stay in power, so that the opposition can remain in opposition. But Your Excellency, we are here as a family to contest the status quo because we are Zimbabweans. We are here, Your Excellency, if we improve your stay in power and the people of Zimbabwe are happy, let it be.
Zimbabweans love to think of ourselves as very smart people, but one day we need to talk about how Sengezo Tshabangu rotina mavungad the whole country. Well, not the whole country because ZANU PF knew. But broad daylight, that meant stole an entire party, and you guys know the rules. Even the police are just like, that's on you. Mascat. The closure of mainstream supermarket branches in Zimbabwe has been coming for a while now. For years, retailers have complained about the challenging business environment. Just to run a supermarket, you need at least 20 licenses on top of hyperinflation, currency instability, the decline in consumer purchasing power. The formal retail sector has had to compete with the unregulated informal market, which gains a ridiculous advantage by bypassing taxes. They also bypass licensing fees and labor law obligations. Right outside Bata, you'll find someone selling the same shoes, $5 cheaper. When OK Zimbabwe shared some of these concerns with the Ministry of Finance, the Permanent Secretary said, you need to find ways to innovate.
Let me come back to another very controversial issue about these tax shops versus formal retail. And there was a big retailer who went all out last week complaining. But how do you complain about a tax shop? If I was the board, I would fire you because you'll be useless management. I would fire you. In South Africa, the spaza market in South Africa is 178 billion. 178. You can go on Google now, that's the size. That's almost 10 billion US dollars in South Africa. But I've never heard ShopRite, Pick and Pay, or Checkers in South Africa complaining that they are out of business because of these spaza shops. They've innovated around them. Yeah?
Innovation said me. Which is any. Recently, Finance Minister Mthuli announced plans to introduce POS machines for informal traders. By pushing POS machines, the government is trying to bring informal traders into the tax net. It is a way to track transactions, increase revenue collection, and reduce the cash economy. On paper, this sounds great, very commendable. The problem is no one, absolutely no one trusts Mthuli, not even the people that work with him. So naturally, many informal traders are worried because if their earnings are visible to the Texas Ranger, he might get some wild ideas. And he hasn't even shown us what he has done with all the other money that he's been taxing us. A new ZIFA executive committee was elected a few weeks ago. But true to Zimbabwean elections, it was full of controversy. Reports and allegations of vote buying, intimidation, back and forth court cases dominated the news cycle in the lead up to elections. Even now, post-elections, there is report that two of the candidates, Twine Piri and Philemon Machana, filed an application with the Court of Arbitration for Sport, requesting the annulment of the election, citing third-party interference. Who is this third party, you might be wondering? It's Wicknell Chivhayo. In true Father Christmas fashion, Wicknell publicly endorsed Nqobile Magwizi's candidature and promised all the councillors who voted for him cars. Ladies and gentlemen, it does not get more blatant than that. This would be funny if it wasn't tragic, because now we wait to see what this means for Magwizi, for ZIFA, and for the Warriors. We just qualified for AFCON. All our energy should be focused on preparing for that. What does this even mean for local football? I've said this before, but I'll say it again. I love local football. Long before the Premier League became a staple in our lives, our idols were Francis Chandida and his left foot that was kissed by the gods, James Matola and his dramatic clearances, Maxwell Marino. I actually grew up in the same neighborhood as Sifa Shimeza and Leo Kroos, and to this day, I still claim them as my older brothers, despite never having exchanged a word with either of them. Currently, football in Zimbabwe is more entertaining on social media than on the actual field of play. The exciting drama you read in the papers on social media is nowhere near the field of play. I say this to say I'm very excited about this year of local football. Not only is there a new reign at ZIFA, but the boys at Scotland FC have brought a new energy that we last saw when Platinum FC came into the league. Will Simba Bora defend their title? Are Dynamos and Highlanders really letting these Mafikizolo run things while they just watch? Is Pokelo going to bring her baddie friends to Mavuku to watch her son play? There seems to be a new lease of life in our local football, and I'm really excited to see what this means for the players themselves and the ecosystems around them. Anamoms Msika, boys remajezi, vananosona ana ngwasona majezi eScotland effect. In Chishona, there's a proverb that says, kupembedza nganga neinobata mai. That's our situation with Donald Trump. As soon as Trump was announced as president, many Zimbabweans came out of the woodworks and shouted, yes, finally, order will be restored. There's two genders, male or female, not... But the last few weeks have been very interesting. Watching the change in public sentiment as many people, and not just Zimbabweans, realize what a Trump presidency actually means for Africans in general and Zimbabweans in particular. On January 24, 2025, the US State Department implemented a stop work order halting all existing foreign assistance and pausing new aid distributions. This action followed a directive from Donald Trump to review whether aid allocations were aligned with his administration's foreign policy priorities. Many Zimbabweans have taken this at face value and viewed it from the lens that, and your people are Zingwamabas. But what does it mean if PEPFAR pulls out funding? Let me break it down. The US aid stop order threatens Zimbabwe's HIV response, jeopardizing critical HIV prevention treatment, supply chains, and workforce support. PEPFAR has provided substantial funding with an estimated 15.9 million from 2024 going right up to 2026. The withdrawal of this support could lead to stockouts, increased infections, delayed ART initiation, and disruption of the community-based prevention efforts. Even the seemingly simple act of picking up a strip of blue gold condoms from a public restroom involves a lot of investment. These condoms, often perceived as free, are part of a broader supply chain funded for by donors like PEPFAR. Donor funds go beyond HIV programs. They also affect cervical cancer and TB programs. Unfortunately for us, we are heavily reliant on donor aid. Whether PEPFAR reinstates funding or not, this is a wake-up call to our government to start prioritizing these critical programs. When Mike Chimwembe showed up to the State House and ripped jeans in March of 2021, it was maybe the most pronounced symptom that something, somewhere, was wrong. Even before that moment, different characters, some dubious and questionable, had taken images with the president at the State House. But that was the moment that everyone was like, if you ask me, that's when Mike's problems really started. The most recent of these characters is Max Chikumbutso, an inventor who took his concepts to the State House. So important was the visit that the president had to cut short his leave to see this man. It was not enough for him to be attended to by the acting president. No. His invention was only for the president, the real. And what was the invention?
Zimbabwean innovator and inventor Maxo Chikumbutso paid a courtesy call showcasing his latest invention of the world's first self-powering vehicles and motorbikes that run just on radio waves.
Hey, where?
This is the only vehicle that exists in the world. There's no other in the world. This is the only vehicle in the world that it is here in Zimbabwe by this young Zimbabwean. And he's so gifted, you won't believe it.
All the posts regarding Chikumbutso's visit to the State House have since been deleted on government social media handles. It seems to have dawned on everyone, including Nick Mangwana, that the invention was indeed too good to be true. But it's too late now, because now we, the public, have questions that need answers. And one of the main questions is there a pay-per-view scheme going on in front of our eyes where people are paying senior civil servants on the promise of a sit down with the president? Because whatever you feel about the president as an individual, the presidency and the residency of the president are sacred government buildings and should be treated as such. Not everyone should be allowed to tucha, to have access. President. You are also risking making a mockery of the president by allowing him to endorse something that is not real, something that you know is not real. Unless, wait a minute, unless that is your intention, to discredit the president through a series of well-coordinated missteps, like that time when Robert Mugabe read the wrong speech in front of the entire parliament. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been an episode of Propaganda with Kandoro. It's going to be a long year, but I promise to be with you every step of the way. See you guys next week.